Welcome to Disruptive Flow, your go-to place for cutting-edge insights on how technology is transforming the supply chain. Today, we're diving into how AI agents are revolutionizing supply chain management. From automating workflows to enhancing predictive decision-making, AI-driven intelligence is unlocking new efficiencies and resilience. For this discussion today, we're excited to have Prajakta Damle from DataRobot, a leader in AI-driven automation. We'll explore the key differences between AI agents and RPA, real-world use cases, and how businesses can integrate AI agents into their operations.
Thank you, Julian. AI agents are a hot topic and need no further explanation on why. What I'm particularly excited about is the leader we have today talking to us. From disrupting technology at AWS to GCP and now at DataRobot, Prajakta, we can't wait to hear more from you on how AI agents are disrupting supply chain. Welcome. So my first question to you is, tell us what you do when you're not building tech and AI agents.
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me on your podcast and giving me such a warm welcome. I'm living and breathing agents, and it's certainly an exciting time to be in a domain that's so rapidly evolving. But when I'm not thinking of agents, agents are a means to an end. Even before DataRobot, I was at AWS and at Google, really working closely with our customers, looking at the unmet need in the market, and then thinking about how technology can help solve for that need and better serve that need. So I really enjoy that. I've done many 0-to-1 products before, and here at DataRobot, we're looking at how we can help customers, especially those in supply chain, reimagine supply chain with the help of AI and AI agents. But when I'm not thinking of AI or agents or work in general, I am very busy with my 2 boys. I have 2 kids under 10, and they're extremely curious about everything around us. So I love to do projects with them. Our latest project is how to grow the sweetest strawberries in our backyard. So I'm happy to talk about that as well once we get into a little bit more about agents and supply chain.
Exciting. I hope that project works out. Looking forward to seeing the pictures, Prajakta. So I've read a number of definitions on AI agents. So I wanted to ask you first, what are, from your perspective, AI agents and why do they matter in supply chain operations?
There are multiple, many definitions of agents floating around in the industry today, and a lot of noise, honestly. At DataRobot, we think of agents as essentially software that has skills and tools at its disposal, and that is intelligent enough to plan and take actions to complete certain tasks, as well as improve over time, without somebody, giving it a predetermined set of rules or a workflow to follow. So that essentially is what we think of as agents and what we are building out as agents that can enable enterprises to bring efficiencies, unlock new revenue streams within their organization. Now, supply chain is a very interesting area. Again, I'm not a supply chain expert by any means, but the little I have gotten to know about it, it's a very complex system of interdependent, interconnected components that is critical to us, all of us, on an everyday basis. So it's critical to us functioning as a society on an everyday basis. Now, while it's complex and global, it is also extremely fragile. And it's affected by so many factors, things that we cannot possibly anticipate and plan for and codify. I'll give you an example. A few years back, a ship got stuck in the Panama Canal for 5 days, and that sent ripple effects across the global supply chain systems. And the pandemic, I mean, all of us lived through it, has put a lot of constraints, had put a lot of constraints on things that we took granted on an everyday basis, thanks to our supply chain systems. So supply chain requires systems that can dynamically react to ever-changing factors, and take into account different modalities of factors as well. So you need automation that's dynamic, and that's why AI agents are a perfect fit to really not only improve your supply chain systems, but also fundamentally rethink supply chain.
That's amazing, Prajakta, and you're right. The complexity in supply chain is driven by just the dynamic and fragile nature of input parameters coming in and constant remediation needed based on new inputs coming in. The problems have stayed consistent, whether it's demand forecasting, supplier coordination, risk management, visibility gaps. How would you encourage us to think about where have the traditional systems struggle to meet the modern complexity and the complexity that continues to grow, and where do AI agents as a technology, or just AI and Gen AI as a technology, differentiate in the space?
So I mean, if I look at the different areas of supply chain, I mean, there are multiples. I'm not going to like exhaustively enumerate them, but if I look at some of the challenges, it's everything from like predicting, your supply, your demand, first of all, then predicting your supply and effectively managing that, dealing with things like, your raw materials shortages, disruptions when it comes to like logistics and transportation, labor shortages, and then also to ensure things like safety, compliance in a warehouse, meet, an organizational sustainability goals. So there's a lot of things that you need to like plan around and coordinate, honestly, like things need to work as clockwork. And we all are living in a world where there are many external pressures now, from increase like unpredictability in consumer demand to economic shocks around tariffs, climate related disruptions. And these things make that coordination even more complex. So traditional forecasting models, when they're embedded in platforms like, for example, SAP, IBP, are often limited on their reliance on historic data and rigid assumptions. So they struggle to quickly adapt to new signals that they haven't seen in the historic data that they have. And as a result, they then struggle to easily scale out this across thousands of SKUs, channels, geographic regions. And then when it comes to warehouses, I think there was an aspiration to create dark warehouses, because, where you only have machines and robots operating the warehouse. And that also then limits, what type of goods you can serve and where you can deploy or build these warehouses. So with AI, and especially with Gen AI and agentic AI, we have an opportunity to create systems that can react to these changes, can coordinate across, your inventory data, your logistic planning and supply data, your processes to do like staffing and planning, as well as things, around monitoring your warehouse or monitoring some sensor data to know certain maintenance requests need to be served. So all of that can be now brought together as one or a few complex systems that can learn and adapt in near real time, and then bring more synergies between what automation and software can do and humans can do. So it's not one or the other. And that's why I feel like the traditional systems are insufficient to essentially equip organizations as they move into this modern world.
Great point, Project. I think this definitely adds a layer of intelligence that's just going to enable better decision making. Now, the challenge is, I mean, I guess most of the clients that I had over my career so far, already have these supply chain systems that they've been using for a while. So how can they integrate some of this new technology in a way that helps them right away, but also allows them to remain flexible for any future innovation, which I'm sure will come?
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend customers to think of revamping their entire supply chain and sort of rethinking everything, because that could become an insurmountable problem, insurmountable project to take on in one go. And oftentimes, not all parts of supply chain are in-house for a given enterprise. So, I would encourage companies to really look at parts of the supply chain that are actually critical to their business, that they own in-house, that, if reimagined or revamped, can have a meaningful impact on their business. And then look at how they could pick a set of problems or some problems that, with a lens of bringing more efficiency or bringing more personalization, making them more dynamic. So pick at those areas and then pick those out and look at rolling them out in a more controlled way, like rolling out solutions in a more controlled way. I think it's also important to pick a partner that's not just a supply chain expert, but also an AI expert, because these are, net new technologies that are quickly evolving. So you need a partner that will work with you, that not only brings supply chain expertise to the table, but AI expertise to the table. So, for example, DataRobot, we are deeply partnering with SAP and building agentic AI applications that are embedded within SAP as their insight apps. And so we read from data sources like IBP, SAP Ariba, certainly data from SAP HANA. And then we provide our, the insights, the actions that the agents take. We provide them back into existing interfaces, existing dashboards. So customers then they don't need to retrain their operators and planners. They don't need to swap out their systems, but they can then augment them and start using them. So just to take a more concrete example, we have a suite of AI agents for supply chain. One of them is a demand planning agent that customers can readily deploy into their SAP IBP stack. And this agent adapts in near real time to emerging trends, geographic variations, things like inflation, regulatory changes, and then incorporates that in the analysis that it provides. It also has, outside of the insights and analysis it provides, it has built-in monitoring for itself. It has things like auditability built into the system. So it's also important to pick a solution that's not black box, that you as a customer can audit, can trace, can transparently see how actions are being taken, what actions are being taken. And then for this particular agent, the insights flow directly into IBP. So again, the planners who have been working on this don't have to change the interfaces or the systems that they interact with, and don't have to be.
So you're already integrating a lot of these, which makes it a lot easier for the end users as well. Excellent.
That is correct. That is correct. Yep.
And from what I recall, Project NVIDIA and DataRobot also have an enterprise partnership, which was just announced. Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, actually, it's a very interesting. NVIDIA is bringing some very interesting capabilities that we are able to offer to our customers in supply chain. So, for example, we have integrated with NVIDIA's AI enterprise stack, which includes their NIMS containers, NEMO guardrails, and more importantly, some of their blueprints, which are technology patterns. One of them is a video processing blueprint, which we have actually incorporated in our warehouse management agent. So this agent is, can access structured data, such as, your inventory data, your shipping data, your staffing data, but also unstructured or multimodal data, such as video footage from drones. And we spoke to many of our customers who manage warehouses, and actually having drones is now becoming the more preferred approach as opposed to static videos installed in a warehouse. So we are essentially able to then process this through this agent and provide capabilities where the agent can react to last minute delivery, where somebody can ask the agent, is there room within the warehouse? Even if everything is documented, warehouses are a chaos. So is there room? Where can the pallets fit? They can do a quick review of the open spaces on something that relied on somebody walking the corridors to now somebody doing this on a daily or multiple times a day sort of a exercise. So we are able to deploy this in some of our customers, but NVIDIA is also making advances in physical AI. So we are excited about the future because with the capabilities in physical AI, we can actually create agents that can create a safer environment for humans and robots to interact seamlessly, as opposed to, again, relying on systems that are slower to react and slower to alert and leading to injuries within a warehouse. So I'm excited about what we have today and excited about what's coming in the future ahead.
That's fascinating, Prajakta. Yes, the partnership with NVIDIA and the fact that you are also a partner with SAP and you backward integrate easily into SAP. As a technology leader, clearly you're doing everything to make it easy for the ecosystem to enable agentic AI workflows without significant cost. However, as Julian and I talk to operators, one of the consistent themes that we hear is between the hype of agentic AI and actual implementation, there is still a gap in terms of understanding of what benefits do they bring to the table. Can you share some real world examples of where AI has led to cost savings, efficiency gains, risk reduction? I mean, how is the ROI measured?
Great question. And certainly, we are hyper focused at DataRobot on delivering not just, the technology or, enabling customers to prove out a concept, but really proving out the value. In fact, we call our, we don't have POCs, we have proof of value within DataRobot, that we work very closely with customers to really identify the right KPIs, business-related KPIs, and then showing how our AI solutions can help deliver on that value. So let me give you some examples. BMW, we all know BMW pretty well. My husband is an avid BMW fan. BMW uses DataRobot to do vehicle production planning. And it's interesting, they use it on both sides, like on the supply as well as the demand side, where they analyze, better plan and analyze the expected assembly parts and adapt to the delays, for example, in raw material delivery, etc., as well as look at production line maintenance and failure using AI and predict when they would need to address those issues. And then they pair that with better sales planning. And thus they're optimizing both the supply side as well as the demand side of manufacturing and supplying vehicles. Another customer, Oyak, which is a huge cement manufacturer in Turkey, uses DataRobot. They use DataRobot to monitor and analyze sensor data from 16 different production plants. And they were able to proactively predict and schedule maintenance, monitor the quality of their equipment, improve efficiency. And they were able to measure and bring down their CO2 emissions nearly 200,000 tons per year. I think, if I remember correctly, they were able to grow their reliance on, reduce their CO2 emissions and grow their reliance on alternate fuel from 9% to 30%. So again, very measurable impact, and it enabled them to meet their sustainability goals. Another example is we work with a fast fashion retailer who faced 300 million in overstock losses due to inaccurate inventory planning. And then by leveraging DataRobot's AI-powered the demand planning agent, they were able to better manage the inventory, by store, by item, by store per day. So very sort of like granular, detailed, customized planning, saving them millions of dollars annually. So not only optimizing the inventory planning, but also operations, like across sourcing, manufacturing, and retail. So I can keep going on and on, but it's amazing, in different sort of industries, but around supply chain, we are able to see customers use our solutions and show impact.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I mean, it shows the breadth of how companies can use this technology to improve their operations and have an impact on their bottom line. So if I'm an executive that wants to get started on this, you mentioned the proof of value project. How does that look like to get started?
Yeah, so I again, like as I was mentioning, like I would pick an area that you as a company own in-house and really think through like what is one end-to-end scenario that you want to try out this proof of value with. And like we as DataRobot, like as our field teams are also like often sitting down with customers to analyze and recommend essentially a scenario that they can start with. A few years back, like I read this example where Home Depot moved from like a pure like consumer sales business to a renting business. And they actually tried this, like they started with like a single category, but they tried it in one of their largest metros. So I think that's important, like as opposed to taking a area or a use case that you care less about as an organization. I think you should pick something that is, core to your business, but then find a more controlled sort of scenario where you could roll this out, try this out to see the impact. And then that gives you confidence to then be able to roll this out more like to a wider sort of workflows or to a wider area in your organization. The other thing is like this is a very fast moving space. So you want to pick a vendor, a platform, a solution that enables you to not only like monitor your business success, but also monitor the solution over time and maintain it over time in terms of, again, as I said, like has the right like guardrails, has the right compliance, the right transparency, security. Those are all important, as important as the tech itself, because this is something that is not once and done. Like you want a system that you can maintain over time.
And potentially expand at the end of the day.
And expand, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
makes sense.
Yep.
Well, that brings me to my favorite question, Prajakta. In this world where there is plenty information, in fact, way too much information, what are some of the books, podcasts, resources you'd recommend to our audience who are trying to learn more about AI agents and AI agents as they apply to supply chain manufacturing? Would love to learn more about that.
Yeah, that is a tough question. Probably the toughest of today's podcast because it's such a fast evolving space. I would definitely recommend leaders to take the time to dive into technology, even though, you're like, I'm again not a supply chain expert, but I think it's instead of focusing on like things that like AI, podcast that talks about AI and supply chain, I would try to keep up with the new trends in AI itself. Some of my favorite podcasts is like This Week in ML and AI by Sam Charrington. There's the AI podcast by NVIDIA, which is also another popular one. I love to keep up with it. There are also these videos by Andrew Ng. I might have mispronounced his last name, but he makes it super easy for somebody who is technical or not in AI, technical but not in AI, to really understand the concepts and get started with it. The reason I say it like to do this in addition to obviously keeping up with like advances in supply chain is that sometimes like you as leaders could challenge your teams, your vendors to say like, hey, I heard like this is happening in the world of like agentic AI or AI in general. Have we thought about it? Like, can we apply it to this part of our supply chain or this part of our business? So I would encourage all leaders to keep abreast with the changes in AI overall.
That is phenomenal. Thank you, Prajakta. I haven't checked out any of those, so I'll go and take a look.
Let me know what do you think of them, or if you have other recommendations, I would love to trade notes.
Sure thing. Well, we will take these references from you and share them with our audience.
Yeah, I think that's critical, right? At the end of the day, just staying informed and continuing to learn, given the pace that it's moving, is going to be a competitive advantage or a requirement for any executive that is working on this. So very excited for today's discussion, Prajakta. Thanks for sharing all those examples. Before we wrap, any words to conclude from your side?
No, this has been great. I'm super excited about the potential that AI holds in sort of reimagining supply chain. And I am looking forward to your series, like, getting myself educated and keeping myself up to date on all things related to supply chain. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the conversation today.
Thank you very much, Prajakta. So thrilled to have you here, and we learned so much today. If today's discussion sparked new ideas for you, connect with Prajakta on LinkedIn and follow her journey through DataRobot on LinkedIn as well. Please continue to follow Disruptive Flow to stay tuned. We have more speakers like Prajakta joining us soon. Excited. Thank you so much, Prajakta.
Thanks both of you, and thanks everyone for listening in.